internet I hear people talking about. Interesting thing. Interesting thing.
So, Carsten, how's it going on the technical side of
screw
this
you!
one show?
Screw you! Screw you! Dear audience, there's somebody between us. Damn it. Dear audience, we started the show like 5 minutes ago when we defined that today is not our 19th but 20th show. It's number 20. And because of that, we decided to change the show. Because, frankly, we need to have somebody between us. So, Christopher.
Sorry, could you please speak to our new guest? No, actually not guest.
No, he's not a guest. He's
Unveil
not a
the
guest.
mystery and speak to Dom, please, because I'm trying to make a social media post to make people aware of what we are doing here.
You know, don't
Sounds
pretend
good.
that you know what you are doing with social media. And don't wait until somebody is stopping to speak because it's just yelling in between. Dear world, dear audience, dear Christopher, let me introduce you to the one and only famous guy with the ears. Welcome.
Oh my God, yes!
Welcome, Dom Schneider. And Dom is not a guest.
No, not really, not exactly. So, first of all, thanks for making this possible and for basically making me show up here. And yeah, so some of us might know the combination of Carsten and me from the Cloud Twitter. And
I'm a big fan.
what
Yeah, you
people
are the
don't
fan.
know is that I also have been a more or less regular watcher of this format.
You have
And
been
this
our
other
viewer.
guy over there, we also met sometime. So yeah, actually I know both of those crazy guys from the real life, and now we are all end up on the single stream.
Oh my God, that's so awesome.
Yeah.
We are now officially 33.3% better.
No, Chris, we are 100% better now. Because now, as you actually told me,
Yeah.
we have somebody who has knowledge, who understands what we are talking about, and
yes.
who has green ears.
Yeah, I think it usually people keep blaming it on the ears. So I always consider myself to be the most stupid person around. So basically, I'm adorable. So if I start losing my stuff, just remember I'm adorable.
What have I done?
I might not be intelligent, but I'm cute.
What have I done? Dear Christopher, something has changed on your side as well. I mean, I wasn't ever aware that your living room is that huge.
Oh, rainbows!
With all the money I've earned with doing open.clouds.dev, I just built a new room in my
No,
apartment.
you haven't. You just bought a new camera.
Yes, true that. I one-upped the game because apparently people have really become fans, let's call them fans, of the online formats. And one of the issues I think we had before is
Chris, sorry to interrupt. We made our fan part of our show, so we need to find new fans now.
Well, whatever it might be, best viewing quality for our fans, because they deserve the best.
But haven't you improved your audio quality as well?
Oh yes, I also got a new microphone.
Yeah, I have to deal with my headset, so the integrated microphones are, well, no.
There goes the Apple guy again.
The Apple guy has sold his
price, but
iMac.
got Apple-
Look at my broken in-ears.
No,
The
the
cable
Apple
is
guy.
missing.
The Apple guy has sold his iMac. Has sold two iPhones last week, and guess what he's doing with the money?
Probably
Yeah,
something with IT.
no. First of all, yeah, we spent the whole money on Dom.
Getting hammered.
Getting completely trashed.
I hated to be the reasonable one here. No, I'm going to build a computer.
Okay, wow. That's great. So, dear internet people, I'll tell you the
Don't get
true
the
story.
2080.
So we were talking of including Dom in this wonderful web series, and that was a great idea. But Dom and myself decided we don't want to do this with Apple users. So that's just the way it went.
But he was sporting a Risen. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah, it's
wow!
just a
Look at him.
1660 for my work computer. Yeah, I know it's not for gaming. It's just for
Maybe
streaming.
maybe your real computer, real graphics card can handle our live streaming.
Wow. I think I have an old Matrox Millennium lying around.
Yeah, Christopher, what happened this week? No, Dom, and you need to live through that. We have forgotten about the most important things.
Oh yes.
So, Christopher, do you
Yes.
want to tell me and sing it? One of the sponsors who is sponsoring open.clouds.dev.
The Cloud Report, sponsoring open.clouds.dev. Now, new and improved with even greater show hosts.
And sponsored by Vanilla Stack, home of great software. That was new. That was new.
Free
Okay.
software.
And
I'll send this over to.
Dom, you are our fan. You know that now is time for the running gag. We have an awesome guest today. Well,
Chris?
yeah, no, she's no. Did we make Chris our guest? Her. No, we have an awesome guest today, which is not there as always. It's Friederike, editor-in-chief of the Cloud Report. Today, she apologizes, but she is watching HashiConf by HashiCorp.
All right.
And look at Chris. He was again doing social media stuff. You see that when he gets so distracted, when he gets so.
Yeah, he has this.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
social
exactly.
media is there, you know. Now I'm going to go for the clicks.
Well, that's actually one of the benefits I see in being three hosts now, because if one host is distracted, there's still two people who can converse.
Can't reach gamepad.
So let me summarize this. Same show, new
More
host
content.
included, same running gag, soon to be on a better hardware platform, and probably software platform to go with it.
Where should we get a new hardware platform from?
Well, that's what you're doing. Didn't you just mention you were going to exchange your hardware?
Oh,
Yeah,
hi there.
but
There's people saying hola.
let me add it again. I can make that bigger because. Hi, Emil. That is our
Hola.
that is our other viewer. Yeah, it's okay. Better.
Hello. So,
Emil, wait. Emil has a question. And whom is this question for?
Carsten. Well, go ahead, Emil.
I haven't
Shoot.
been clicking on that. It's something with Ada Lovelace. Today is Ada Lovelace Day.
Yes.
Today is Ada Lovelace Day. Does anybody know about her? And why that is so
Yes.
important? And why it is so awesome for Emil,
So,
from Emil to point to that?
yes, and I would like to actually, that's pretty cool. Thank you, Emil, for this context, because actually there's something I really do want to mention. Because within certain, let's say, technical and developer circles who use social platforms, I've seen one post after another saying, "Oh, today is Ada Lovelace Day, and yay, she was the first female programmer, and whoop-de doing great." That might be part of the
Shut up!
story, but actually,
More importantly, yes, Emil, I want to do that.
Sir Samashke, this is your official call to fame.
now you're getting invited to a real big thing, because but you fit in. I want to say this: you fit in, Carsten, because we only do C-level shows now, C-level connections, Emil and myself. So yeah, well, what's your answer? Will you be our
Yes,
guest, Carsten?
sir. Obviously,
That's so nice of you.
Cool.
obviously.
Could I now continue my rant?
Yeah, give me a second. Give me a second because I just want to open the browser scene where I can basically show what I have Googled in between. So please go ahead with your rant.
You know that Google?
Ah, yes, Wikipedia. And if you might even, yes, go on Wikipedia and read what it says there. The actual fascinating thing about Miss Ada Lovelace was that she was the first person to actually grasp the wider concept that a computer could have. Because back in the day when Miss Lovelace worked on her first machine, it was a mechanical computer. It was okay, you could do math operations on a mechanical device. But the first person to actually kind of mainstream have the opinion that you could be doing very much more with computing machines was this woman. And that is worth so much more for everyone, especially us three who work in this industry, that I think it must have been like 1800. When was she alive? 18. Yeah. So
1815
basically,
to 1852.
yeah. So basically, sometime probably around 1830 or
30.
something or other.
Yeah, yeah, I
Um,
read about that.
yeah, this lady was already kind of talking about the modern computing stuff we do nowadays.
So
Just a
actually,
very
she
abstract
paved the
level.
waves or the way for the development for the next 200 years.
Yeah. And
This
that's
is
that's
awesome.
worth so much more than this one little piece of generic information that everybody's been posting all day with, well, she was the first programmer. Yeah, cool. That's pretty cool. But she first laid the foundation for
For
herself to
programming
become a
languages.
programmer,
Yeah.
and that's just really fascinating to me.
Since I
Any other
am a
opinion?
programmer,
Hmm.
I understand the importance of Ada Lovelace. You guys,
Actually, what
as
I
ops guys or as Mr. Suze marketing guy, don't.
well, fun fact. Having studied philosophy, it's actually quite interesting that the formal logic is not part of of the mathematics, but actually is one of the things or the foundations of philosophy, where you actually analyze the outer framework that allows you to connect a specific feature with an item. So basically, the foundations of all formulas that later you will find in also programming languages. So actually, it's quite interesting to see that she, in like 1830, started to use this kind of setup to build the foundations of what is will become programming languages later on, whereas the formal logic is actually part of philosophy. So it's philosophy that actually went into one of the strongest, like, let's say, STEM areas with IT, although it's basically, yeah, from just the other side.
Dom, Dom, what you just did is a complete no-go. You screwed our show. It was the first time ever that we actually transferred something knowledgeable that we actually had some depth besides Chris's and my usual ranting, which is awesome, and I loved it. But you completely destroyed our show.
Oops.
Haven't I told you before that it's not about knowledge, that's not about seriosity, that's not about, I don't know, making people aware of things? It is just about making Chris and me looking great.
Oh, I just used this, as a kind of way to argue why me as kind of a philosopher ended up in this IT thingy with cat ears. So, yeah. So I thought it's quite interesting to know where all the logic comes from,
I think that's really interesting because I just wouldn't have thought that it is that way. And like there's also coming from that then probably.
Living wiki.
So
I really loved it. I really loved it.
Serious question. See, because you flipped around this whole web show. Now we're gonna get serious. Serious question. There's these principles which you can use either way. There's one thing called form follows function, and those guys tend to get into fights with people who say function follows form.
Mm-hmm.
Is that which part does that belong to?
Interesting question. So what I would refer to from a philosopher's point of view is to define function and form. I think we would rather try to distinguish between matter and mind.
Oh.
So like what is basically what imprints on the other. So the let's say the old theory goes that our minds are like a formable like wax, and reality is just something that's given and that will impact your mold form and hence imprint onto you. So basically you have a coin, you have a piece of wax, you smash them together and you will have the image of the coin imprint in the wax. And the classic approach was to consider our minds as being the wax in this theory, and reality and everything around us would hit us as this form and imprint on us, and so we are then more or less imprinted or used adjusted to this thing. If we break this down to function and form, I'd say maybe the functionality part is our mind, and the form is like the outside. But if you take this from the philosopher side and you go one step further to the idealism or ideology, I'm not sure that Idealismus in Deutschen, in German. So idealism, yeah.
I
so
was
there's the ism.
faster.
Yeah, I don't want to go into isms.
Me.
And actually, the change or the revolution was that they decided like maybe it's the other way around, and maybe it's our mind that has an influence on the perceived reality. So
Yeah.
and like maybe it's our mind is the coin that imprints itself on the things that we observe. And actually, if you compare this to what physics is doing, especially in the like neuro areas like quantum mechanics, etc., they start to ask exactly the same questions. Like if I start to observe a specific setup, then suddenly just the act of observing it changes the outcome. So suddenly I'm not
It's
just
pretty much part of,
independent.
for example, what Schrödinger said then again in physics, right? It has
Exactly.
That's basically where the lines completely blur between philosophy and between, on the other hand, physics and quantum physics, which is then again something completely different from physics.
We're doing this with our webinar. We are Schrödinger's open.clouds.dev because we couldn't be online. We couldn't be online until I've posted it. You will never know.
Could be a bit of might or might not be dead. We just have to take a look or throw pizza in and see what comes out.
Oh well, see, that's influencing for you, Carsten. We made you stop talk.
Oh.
But I have the feeling something important was to come.
Yeah, actually, so what Carsten is right with the conclusion. So actually, we so the modern disciplines of physics with the quantum mechanics, etc. So actually, they now have the experiment because we have advanced on the technology side to be able to make electrons visible, etc. And all these things. So experiment and experimental setups are now possible today that weren't like 100 and 200 years ago. But the theoretical outlines or the path of thinking, just like Ada provided the path for all the programming to come. So the idealism in philosophy paved the way to ask the questions that later physics was able to actually tackle in an experiment. While at the time when philosophy started to make these ideas, there was nothing to prove it. It was just like a concept of perception and reality. So and now later on, suddenly technology advanced and we can take these same questions that started up in physics and now they have the chance to ask them based on an experiment with sometimes exactly the outcome you did not want to have. So I like this. That's kind of my approach to infrastructure. It's all like
Ooh. Ooh, wow. Well, my approach to infrastructure has been pretty much clear for the last couple of years, but I'm not going to restate that one. We've had that in many, many shows, what my view on that topic is. Just don't do open source. It's awful.
Oh, we just had an episode on that one in another world where I am just a technician, and we had this open source and cloud discussion. It was awesome.
Okay. I enjoyed that because I've been watching, or I was watching the last couple of your Cloud Ritter webinar. That's one of the great things. If you speak German, you get to watch that.
There's only 2 to come.
Well, I was commenting 2 times, but you don't know what.
There's only 2 to come.
But there's a lot
perhaps
more.
the name might stay. We are not sure about that, but the Dom and Carsten show in German will then be over tomorrow, and
Which beautifully led to enhancing our little format here.
And I'm so looking forward what it will be. Next week will be awesome. And also I like that I have kind of found a new home here.
Oh,
so.
yeah. Well, because concerning that, maybe, hey, Emil, if you're still there, chime in, or anybody on the LinkedIn side. But is it maybe time to reiterate and redefine what we do here with this format? Because up to now, for the avid viewer, it all started with Carsten and myself having a bunch of news articles. One guy always was pro, the other one wasn't.
Time.
We talk about
we were young.
Yeah,
you
remember,
money.
you remember at the beginning of this pandemic. Oh God. But oh well. The thing is, that is a great format. But is there something? Oh, hi, Emil.
Hola, Emil.
Is there something you want to do, Dom? I don't mind about Carsten because he founded this thing, has been there, but is there something you want to do? Something you want to target? Speak about?
Good question. Actually, I think I was just, I feel like just thrown in here. And it's like, okay, cool. I know those guys. Both are cool. I know their stuff. And I was just like, yeah, cool. Show up and maybe you can somehow constructively join the discussion, or
I mean, perhaps maybe you are basically just leading the discussion, rendering Chris and me like being stupid morons.
It has nothing to do
exactly.
with
Just a little bit of philosophy, just a little bit of quantum theoretics, just a little bit of this and that. I mean, frankly, that's all Chris and I did over and over again, but not on the show. So it's great to have you here. It's really great to have you here. And frankly, let me put it that way. That would give me a chance to actually visit the restrooms while we are streaming, because I would be sure that there would be a great conversation still going on between Dom and and Chris.
You see, what we have to deal with now, Dom, is, that's exactly it. I'll ask you. Carsten will answer.
Well, let me put it that way. Is it still mobbing if it's 1 versus 2 and the one mobs the 2? Is that
That's
still considered to be
inverse
mobbing?
mobbing. Probably there is some kind of psychology behind it.
Perhaps
Out of
Schrödinger's
10
mobbing.
people, out of 10 people, it's always only one who hates the mobbing.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
but we
Ada
can't go
Lovelace
down
Day. Let's get back to
because
that. Ada Lovelace Day. The interesting thing is basically, but I just wanted to say before Dom was basically, I loved it. I still love it. I just want to look a little bit as if I would know what I'm talking about. That kind of analytical engine basically took away everything we knew and we nowadays know in regards to programming. It was basically the foundation for what, for example, Turing did. And and she just did it on paper. She just basically, she never had her hands on such a machine. It was all inside her head. And if I would imagine that I would do something like that inside my head, well, you could call me Chris.
yeah, phew, I've been taking these programming courses seriously now. Who, holy moly!
Chris,
I see a
HTML
really,
is
really
no
awesome
programming
developer.
language. HTML is no programming language. JavaScript
It-
is no programming language.
I'm taking a Python course.
Oh, Python! Great, that's a programming language. How's it going?
Right. Awfully. I I really enjoyed. No, it's really. What? Did you say something or were you muted, Dom?
I was muted. Of course I was muted. Ah! I was just like, and what about you? Oh, Python. Haha. And how's it going? Fuck you.
It's I don't know, you learn all this stuff and you learn how the code is built up and how you put the different pieces together, and then it just gets woof. Wow, you really need, you need a couple of working brain cells to be able to abstract from that to real software. And it's
And
for me what
why
I
don't you just sit down and praise Carsten because he's able to do that?
well, I live in a world where I'm promoting open source, so I'll just go on GitHub, do copy and paste, and I don't need you.
That's the purpose of open
I want
source,
your
isn't
brain
it?
on GitHub. Thanks.
That's the actual and true purpose of open source. I go to GitHub and I just do copy and pasting and I don't need you anymore. You stupid moron, you stupid developer.
No, I'll give you this because since I've been working in a developer realm for the last year now,
And you did
it is
great, by the
definitely
way.
good to learn the basics of programming languages because you'll understand the people you're talking to better. But the other thing really is that I'm also not only a promoter of open source, but the thing I've mentioned here very, very often, it just gets belittled by the real developers like Carsten, is we are heading into an absolute low code and no code future. And there'll be more and more non-technical people who will be the creators of the workflow functions and apps that we have. That doesn't make developers or infrastructure operators obsolete, certainly not, because somebody has to set up that crap. But check what Google, Microsoft, and Amazon are doing at the moment, Oh, yes, please.
I raised my hands before you, Dom. Now you have to wait until I finished my ranting. That is a terrible future.
No, it's
Low
not.
code and no code is basically the worst thing that could happen from my perspective, really. And I tell you why. It's not about not making those things available.
Democratizing.
Yeah, I know, but it's late afternoon. I was talking all day long. I actually already had like 2 meetings with Dom throughout the day. So pardon me because I actually
might know
spent
how to
all
program,
of my
but big
concentration
words.
on Dominic, and it was worth it, by the way. No, but frankly, I feel like that is a terrible future because it's again not about democratizing programming, not at all. It is basically bringing in something that makes people more stupid, from my perspective. You won't let me please.
Well, why does Vanilla Stack have a
Chris,
graphical installer then?
Chris, please let me. No, please, honestly, because I want to make that point, and you can definitely kill me for that. So, but what I just wanted to say is, think of an engineer, of a mechanic, working on a car's engine, like 150 years back, or 140 years back, with the first engines. They were so simple, everybody could do that. And they got,
Yeah.
but compared to later times, they got more and more complex. And the same is basically true for programming. So from my perspective, it makes a lot of sense to make programming as easy and accessible as possible. I'm totally on that boat. But with those low code and no code approaches, you basically you strip away too much complexity, because programming is complex. It is about applying logic. It is about providing conditions and conditional behavior. It is about basically defining solutions to problems. And what we see quite often, specifically, you know why I said JavaScript is not a programming language? I mean, there's a technical reason for that, but on the other hand, the more important reason for me is not a technical one. It's more like a usage pattern based one. It's quite often, and most often nowadays, used as some sort of a clickety click kind of building something. I don't know. It's like clicking all things together. But the problem is that all the knowledge required with that is basically going away, and you open huge loopholes. You open the world towards security issues, and you then hand over your code towards 1, 2, 3, I don't know, 4 worldwide running platforms such as AWS, Google, or Azure. That is, to me, basically the definition of making people dumb.
Just one step back, because you said, it's a secure. I get you on that one, because putting, for example, non-technical people into a position where they start creating an application, or in some abstract form creating code, is probably, just like you say, maybe somewhat of a security vulnerability, or it just opens opportunity for things to go wrong. But wouldn't the next step be, because if something goes wrong when somebody's using a platform to build an application, isn't it kind of the platform's responsibility to not create shitty code from somebody using a front end to create an app? I don't know. That's just something I realized just now.
I think it is only solving part of the problem. So if I understood Carsten correctly, and I think actually we had like the first situations like this. For example, when I remember one of the first kits or programs that I stumbled across to just build something as simple as a website. That thing was called NetObjects Fusion with this NOJ files. Yeah, everyone goes like, "Oh my god, cringe!" Yeah, but actually, what this program did, it allowed you to create HTML pages without any knowledge at all. You don't have to click anything. You don't need to type anything. You just had a full-blown interface. You just clicked everything together. You inserted your pictures, etc.
But
it made someone
the result
without
was exactly like that. The result was exactly like that.
Yeah, but basically from the perspective of someone who just wants to get like some stupid content on his like myfamily blah blah blah.com or .de page, and they're just confronted and with this complex interface of creating a web page, programming a web page. Oh my god, me programming in a way, and then they get this tool like NetObjects, and you just click, oh cool, I want my picture there, and I can have turning buttons and all this fancy shit, and everything goes like GIF, and but it was possible, and you just clicked it together and you said, okay, cool, post the shit, and you're happy. I have a running page. But now comes the other point. If from a developer side, as someone who knows code, you look at this utterly garbage that Notch produces, on the back end side of things, where you have like tons of redundant code because there's all the eventualities that might be implemented or might not. So you basically have your whole functional frameworks, etc. You have a lot of empty unused variables that get like predefined, and you have all this bullshit, including the click up banner that they implement on your page if you don't find the code and remove it manually. So there's this
Oh,
utterly
I used the licensed version.
Actually, it still comes even in the licensed one. You still have the logo. You can just basically click and remove it.
But guys, whoa, because
Sorry, Christopher, just to make this round. So I think I'm on your side there, Carsten. That I think it makes people more stupid in the usage of things, and it raises the, let's say, the area of people not knowing how much they don't know.
Before Christopher adds his absolutely right thoughts on that, because I feel like I know in which direction he's heading to. What I'm not saying, and I feel like what Dom is not saying as well, is that is per se stupid. And if you say, okay, why is Vanilla Stack there, for example, or why are there like online building tools or whatever, and why is even something like NetObjects Fusion, which is a long gone product, so we can easily hack on that.
We're talking about something in the 90s or
exactly
early 2K maybe.
But I would even go and say, although it created awful code, I'm totally on your side, Chris, in regards to saying, well, it served a purpose and it democratized things. Totally on your side. But there is a point where basically those trade-offs stop being viable. HTML and websites are static. Not aesthetic, they are static. So it's basically just a markup. It's just something that is rendered in your browser, and that's about it.
Descriptive markup language.
And even if you bring in something like JavaScript, you cannot produce so much of mess usually and typically. So the complexity of the things that are running there or not running there is maintainable, and it is handleable, and you can basically work with that. There is no inherent huge security issue, for example, with that. But if you, for example, think into things that are currently thrown around through the ecosystem, such as we use AI for writing our code. That is basically the most dangerous thing I ever heard. And it's not because I am afraid of AI. I am afraid of programmers who program things that replicate themselves, that try to iterate and that try to improve themselves without human interaction. And I actually read about a company that is so proud of being able to throw out like 100,000 of lines of code each month automatically, yada yada yada. That is scaring me as hell. And if we think of that, and if we take that into the account and into the equation, it gets way more dangerous. Because
yeah.
With the internet, you basically have your God. The internet is everywhere. It can basically control everything. And if you just let it do its thing, those tools, you might end up having something created that might be considered by definition, if we speak of philosophy, as a godlike entity. And that is basically, the last step and the last thing, perhaps some sort of humanity is going to realize, that they created their own god, and their own god might not be a nice one, because that god might be a logical one, and that god says, yeah, you are polluting the world, so I need to, in order to save the world, I need to stop you from doing that. And frankly, those no-code environments and those low-code approaches, they pave the road towards that, and that is what scares me. Yeah, because it abstracts you too much of the complexities.
Can I give you my example? because that might have changed. It always depends probably on which side you're looking at it. But as an easy
The same
example,
is true
when
for
you're
the atomic
hungry,
bomb.
when you're hungry, probably you'll go into your kitchen and you say, if I'm hungry, I need to cook something. But you're not a professionally trained
I
cook. So
calls.
nobody knows how good or how bad your food could be, which is not a problem because your issue is I'm hungry, so I need to eat. And as long as you eat, you're going to live, which is cool. So even with your very probably amateurish skills, if you're not a trained chef, you can make your own food. If you don't know how to make food, but you still want to make your own food, then you use a recipe because somebody wrote a whole book telling you, hey, this is, best practice. This is, something where you take different little building blocks, or when you're cooking, different ingredients, put them together the right way, and
We're
you'll
all
have great.
Breaking Bad, yeah.
But if you still, if you eat your own dog food, if you do that and it still tastes shitty, you might want to go to a restaurant where there's a trained chef, or go to a Michelin starred restaurant and pay a lot of money and get really, really awesome food. And that's the same that's happening here on the technical side. Yes, it is, because as
Absolutely
long
not.
as I only have a very, very simple issue, as in somebody wants a functionality, somebody wants a button to click that makes his life easier, then why not give them the recipes? Why not give them the building blocks they need to enable themselves and to make themselves more
Quite
productive?
simple.
And
Go
I mean,
ahead.
like
Go
maybe we
ahead.
can cut a line there that I think it's not bad to have these tools, and I think there is a lot of future in it, and also especially in enablement. So I'm a strong believer of enablement and enabling people to
Absolutely.
be more creative with the tool that we have, with the tools that we have, especially technology tools. And cloud helps us a lot to excel in these tools. So basically taking workload out of your local machines and pushing it into cloud makes it easier to distribute hardware, etc. Um, I will not read that out aloud. But on the other side,
you
um,
bad boy.
but what I think where somehow we have to strike a middle ground is because I think both sides are valid. So on the one side, we should always be sapient of the code we are using. And there is always, I think, a strong need for people that are able to look past these platforms, that are able to look past these engines, etc., and are able to get down to the real like source code, and be still able to analyze it, to optimize it, and not only just for controlling reason, but also to go to your cooking example. If I have, let's say, very specific dietary needs for what reason ever, then even it won't help me to go to a Michelin star restaurant, because I would still end up with the chefs there having a huge discussion what I can eat, what I can't eat, and how it has to be prepared because of my special diet, blah blah blah. So in the end, if I know my shit, I cook myself. Yeah, so that would be a situation because I have very specific needs, and no tool can help me there. So in order to have the most efficient solution for my specific needs would be to learn cooking, haha, and stand in my own kitchen. I mean, from a infrastructure provider perspective, I mean, for us, kind of, it's fine because
If
I
you're willing
believe.
to make a compromise
Mm,
on the cooking topic, well, if you don't want to learn cooking, if you're still hungry, and if you can deal with a low standard, just put something in the microwave, man. Something
yeah,
invented the microwave where you press a button, cold food in, hot food out,
but what
everything
I
good.
think is that all
Chris,
these automatic programming tools will actually increase the cloud load that is actually generated. And from a cloud provider perspective, I think you can waste a lot of resources to run your programming coding platform, etc., that in the end produces some code, and you need much more resources than if you just have a very old script machine, you just type in your code. So not too bad, I mean.
um, Chris, I do not agree with you. To be frankly, I do not agree with you, and that's because I feel like your example is not a valid one. If you are making yourself something in a microwave or cooking it at home, whatever. Well, let me put it that way. The worst thing that could happen is, besides setting the house on fire, is basically that you kill yourself. But with programming, specifically in some sort of an open environment, an open ecosystem, in a world where pretty much everything is meshed together or could be meshed together, and where basically most of the things are, how do I put it? They are, all of them or most of the things are trying to abstract you from the details and from the underlying complexities, which is a great thing. Again, don't get me wrong on that.
But I'm reducing complexity with
Wait,
the
wait, wait, wait.
flow
You
node.
cannot, Chris, you cannot reduce complexity to zero. Um, why is, for example, handling atomic bombs a multiple person approach? I mean, it's not too complex to just turn a key, right? Because it's utterly dangerous for some obvious reason. The same is true with a lot of other infrastructures. It's utterly dangerous.
Yeah,
Why
but
do you?
the point
Please,
is,
please,
we are,
let me
yeah,
just make the
but
point.
just we're not talking about with this whole with the cloud movement, what the hyperscalers are doing, and with the low code and no code movement. We're not talking about taking standard run of the mill, taking the janitor and having him set
You
up the
exactly do that,
infrastructure.
Chris. You
But we're telling
exactly do
people in
that.
a
What I'm basically what I just want to see is some sort of control there. Not such as a police, whatever, but more like limited environments. Because with
So to
unlimited
provide
environments,
transparency.
yeah, that's one thing. Transparency, security, sandboxes, whatever. But with unlimited environments and with environments that basically allow you everything. And things actually get worse in clouds environments. Dom can sing songs about that. Please do not. But the point is, the point, the point is, the way it is currently handled. It is pretty much handled without any control, and that is something that scares me off. And on the other hand, that kind of, I just take a library and put things together, I don't need to think of those things, just add building blocks to each other, that makes you stupid because nobody understands what's going on inside anymore. And it's, on the one side, it's a good thing because it lowers the requirements for getting into things. But we end up in a world, and that is actually not something I'm afraid of, that is something I actually see, where the people that build things have little to no understanding about the implications. There is no problem solving knowledge anymore. There is no
but then
understanding
just
of what's
again,
going on.
not to
Again,
be.
programming, Chris, programming is way more than just,
I know,
rolling
but
out
May
some
I add
websites.
the concept of tech literacy? That maybe that is a kind of indicator, like the
Damn it,
average
are
tech
we
literacy.
philosophical today?
Yeah, but I mean, I think this is what you're referring
I
to. So
love
it's
that.
not
Yeah,
about
yeah.
the
I truly
exactly
love that.
being able to type, etc., but having so that if everything gets more and more automated, then the tech literacy will start to decrease. For example, if you just take people, or let's say you look at kids, let's say 20, 10, or let's start for 12 years, 22 years, and then we just scale up in 10 years. So you start with the kids and all have a mobile phone. So if you have a kid with 12, they will know a lot about how to use their apps, etc., but probably will not know a lot about how the phone works. And if you scale up in this, let's say you have one 22 and one 23, and then you end up my age. And so basically, I think you will have a one point where you have a high level of tech literacy and understanding what it can do and also how it works. Whereas before, maybe the elder generation might know how it works, but not what it can do, because all the like smartphone stuff, etc., that got added on top later down the line might be not up to date with you anymore. And then you have those that just started that know all about what I can do with it, but have no clue how it actually works. So maybe this is
I think
where this
So,
tech
you,
literacy.
Dom, you just called me an old guy? Is
No,
that
actually,
what
I
you
was
just called me?
I was
Like your
referring to myself
granddad?
actually. So I mean,
Was that your words?
But
I'm the old one with the gray beard. I don't know.
you know what I'm realizing here, and this is probably important for all three of us because all of us have been working in the IT sector, and we've all pretty much been working kind of on infrastructure topics because this does get mixed up very, very often. Because I was a guy who has to pitch digital transformation to different companies and different personas within the company. And I, for example, I mean, and I'm pretty hardline on that, I'm saying like, yeah, digital transformation certainly is a back end topic, which then happens front end. Because what would I need all this transformation for? A newer and more modern and hyperscaling system. A system without users is, useless. Like I'm going to set up a workload or a system or a server to do something. And the something will always be relevant for the end user, which is probably in the majority of cases somebody, as Dom said, why care how the app works? Why care how my mobile phone and carrier networks work? Because, I'm just going to use this. And actually, that's a pretty valid point to say there needs to be differentiated pitching. Because you are very, very right by saying if I'd start having kind of infrastructure managers who aren't technically trained because they're saying, I have a low code, no code infrastructure building solution or something, that would go horribly, horribly wrong. But if I'm empowering my marketing people to build their own marketing tool, my sales people to build their own CRM, my law people, my law counsel, to build a documentation system for what they're doing.
You should have stopped at the marketing guys.
I mean, yeah, just as you remember in old times when you just wanted to change a picture on your homepage and you have to take the picture and then you upload it somewhere, or then you contact your agency and they have to implement the new picture in the homepage code because the campaign starts in 48 hours. And I mean, yeah, those were the times. Yeah, and just changing a picture was like a huge hassle.
But basically the point is low code, no code, whatever automated environment needs to be restricted. It needs to be restricted in regard to the functionalities that are available. It needs to be restricted in, and that's why I said you should have stopped with the marketing guys. If you empower your salespeople to build their own CRM, you end up with a system that is again not under your control because you don't understand the internals there. That is basically having all the data of all your customers and of all your sales approaches in it without the required security measurements, without the required basically perhaps even legal measurements brought in place. So what I feel like is basically it should be limited. It should be democratized. Absolutely. In the example, and again, Christopher, we are stupid morons because the only one who has knowledge and is transferring the knowledge is sitting in between us. But nonetheless, the point is the example Dom had was a great one or you both had basically with the websites, like changing an image or adding things. That is something which I would definitely agree with, although it is technically a terrible thing, but it in worst case just slows you down or looks awful. In best case it looks okayish. You then would still perhaps need some sort of an expert for doing stuff, but that's not the point. That can be democratized from my perspective, but that basically, then again, we need to have those kind of boundaries and limitations in place. And the interesting thing is, where do we start implementing those boundaries? Who defines what is actually the point where such a boundary is residing? And why is that person defining that? And then again, that's more like a philosophical question, or could become a philosophical question. Obviously, that's today's topic. It is a technical, security-related question. It is a legal-related question. And it is a philosophical question because and perhaps even a matter of humanity or trust in other people. Those things. So that is quite an yeah, exactly, who watches these guards internal conversation, which is currently not visible on your computer screens. But then again, we started. First of all, we started, and I just wanted to show that with programming languages, because there is actually a language that is named after Ada Lovelace.
Can I just
No,
can I state something really? I take it the way you want. You know what the difference between Ada Lovelace and a modern developer like you actually is at this point?
I feel like now
Ada
is
was
coming
never
an
scared.
insult.
Ada was never scared of losing her job to a machine or an algorithm or some
I am not
automation
scared of that.
form of automation. She embraced it. She took this as a machine can make my life easier, better, greater,
Yeah,
digital
that's true for a vibrator.
transformation.
That's absolutely
And
true. But it's not true for an atomic
nowadays,
bomb.
well,
Yeah, it
oh,
depends. It depends. Yeah, I know. It depends.
oh,
Trust in technology. It can make you better,
oh,
smarter,
trust in technology.
greater.
Did we
What
have
could
that as a
possibly
topic?
go wrong?
100,000 people trust our atomic bomb we threw at Nagasaki. Awesome. No, Chris, but there's a difference. First of all, I'm not afraid of technology, not at all. But we are like 150 years advanced now. There are way more things that are possible now. And that's the difference. It's not about, I don't know, running into uncharted territory. Absolutely not. It is about doing that in a responsible way, in a trustworthy way.
Yes.
And yeah, as you said, a computer can help you to fuck things up 1 billion times quicker than humanly possible. So,
Exactly.
so we should be mindful. Yeah.
But again, I totally embrace the idea of low code, no code. But I would like to see boundaries there,
Yeah,
hard
definitely.
boundaries, guarded boundaries.
Maybe,
And frankly, if you want to
we need
pass those
something like the
boundaries,
laws of robotic. Maybe we need
Yeah,
something
perhaps.
as fundamental and basically integrated or ingrained, like Asimov's robotic laws. That
Yes.
yeah,
basically
the laws of
pursues
operations,
similar,
like run my computer.
similar approach.
We don't need
Laws
that
of
for
operation.
development.
Don't touch my stuff.
We don't need that for development. We just need that for operations. And just make it work.
Or you just invest in layer 8, like locking your
No,
door.
Actually, leaving all this low code and no code aside, but actually, like my main driver why I keep restating this, and I do get into pretty cool and heated and long and some shorter discussions with people about this, is that it doesn't matter how we interpret it and what we do, and if which opinion you have on that. But one thing is pretty sure, that technology to some level has become very, very accessible for billions and billions and billions of users in different networks, with different devices, with different machines. And actually, the responsibility I see for a company I work for somebody who creates technology, and that's why this is plopping up so much, is the corporate social responsibility or general responsibility you have of making stuff secure, making it usable, making it accessible, making it better than it was before, because otherwise just don't do your business, then sell the same shit, Microsoft, that you've been selling for a lot of the years. But hey, if it works, it works. But the point is, I've heard so many people, and the majority of them were developers coming from the deep coding or infrastructure side, who were saying, no, it's a bad thing, and we need restrictions, we need boundaries, we need to keep professionalism where it is, we need to keep this some skill you learn, and then you can use it, and nothing that's commonly available. And you can think that way, but that's just not what the world is doing. If I go into one of my large scale industry customers and I ask the guys there, okay, you're 20 people at the table, how many people are in your IT department? And they'll say, okay, 100. And then I ask, how many other people work for the company? They'll probably say like, yeah, 15,000. There is always more of these loser users, layer 8 problems out there. And one of the main things I think we should embrace when we're talking about technology and transforming and using different ways of creating and accessing that stuff, we always need to think of the weakest link in the chain, which is the normal user, the end user, the guy who is non-technical.
But Chris, do you
That's
know
all
why there something like a driver's license exists?
Yes. Does a driver's license make a lot of people better drivers? No. Does it give us
Yeah.
less accidents?
Valid point.
No, it's not a valid point.
In the,
It's not a valid
that
point.
was a
No,
very
but,
good
It's
but I
definitely-
know
it's
what you're
definitely-
aiming for.
Not a valid point, because what you learn with your when you basically do your driver's license, at least the way we do that in Germany. Let me put it that way. I'm not speaking of France or Italy. Or any other country in the world, for that matter. We learn to drive properly. No, what we actually learn is not like sitting in a car and using the pedals and the gear shift, whatever. That is not what you learn. You learn, and that should be part of, at least that is a very important part of what you should learn, is basically the rules and the implications. The driver's license works perfectly because the way it is, if you won't have a driver's license, look at China like 20 years ago, where they did not enforce something like that. It was pure and sheer chaos on the streets, for example. The point is, Chris, I totally follow you on things like democratizing things and so on and so forth. But if you start speaking of corporate social responsibility and
I'm not talking about democratizing. Absolutely not.
If you speak of something like CSRP or CSRs in that regard, frankly, I feel like that's definitely the wrong way to approach that thing. Again, you can do so much alone. You can do so much harm with this complex technology brought into the wrong hands. Again, it's a difference of, or there's a differentiation between, I don't know, giving people the ability to roll out their Excel macros or to set up a website or to I don't know, make some, pardon me on that, some stupid things and giving them full control. Full control should only be given to those who understand that. Yes, that raises a different question. Who controls the one that control the things? Absolutely. But then again, the answer could not be like no control at all, or just leave it to them, they will sort that out. That's basically not the way it could work.
That's where I see
it will always boil down to a common sense approach, because just what you compared, like with them, for example, like with macro scripts within Excel. So I think the main platform of problem hasn't shifted, just the attack vectors have changed or risen. So for example, yes, you could attack Excel files with like Excel script viruses, etc. So there have been a lot of opportunities and possibilities for those that know the code, or also others that just click together stuff where this code was embedded and it suddenly ran shit on your office, etc. And now with intra as code as being something that exists, and basically that means that some lines of code can lead to physical deployment of diverse resources. So suddenly you have a very direct link that code, just basically a few bits of information on the one side, can result in some huge physical anomalies to happen in the real world. So if I have a script that, for example, just puts all CPUs and runs by in full load just for the lols, and you run this and you sneak this code into a data center, and suddenly everything heats up, etc. The whole cooling system starts to, or a hospital, exactly. So the attack vectors have increased over the time, but the basic idea behind it hasn't changed. So the same that goes for the Excel script code, for example. It's also, you have tools that are able to combine bad code. You have people that know exactly how to combine this bad code. And in the long run, whether you have a running office or things break down will be measured by common sense, I'd say. So we just have to change our awareness.
But then again, I would even say common sense would not be enough. If you would just boil down everything to common sense, what do you need laws for?
Well, laws are, I think, especially for those situations where common sense won't help you.
And common sense won't help
because
you quite
sometimes
often,
it's common
frankly.
sense to, you screwed me over, I'll take this hot cup of coffee and throw it into your face.
Yeah, but
laws say,
Dom, absolutely right, absolutely right. Common sense is a thing if you are calm and controlled and relaxed. And then it would still be not enough, because common sense is something that basically arises from your history and from your experiences. Something is pretty funny. But the point is, you need to have some sort of rule and some sort of common rule, let me put it that way. And again, I feel like the same should be true to those democratic approaches to programming. It's not like that I, as the bad and ugly and fat developer, don't want others to do what I do. Frankly, I would be happy, because most of the stuff programmers do is complete and utter nonsense, repetitive, and so on and so forth. It's completely bullshit. You do the same thing over and over and over again.
Could I please again, because you continuously keep saying it. It's not about democratization. It's not about giving everybody the right and the same kind of weight within a decision that is to be made. But again, it's about accessibility and empowerment, and that's something that
agreed. I understood.
Always have. Yeah,
Christopher, agreed. I use democratization in a different way in that regard, as making it available to the people. You have in that regard a slightly different understanding. You have an understanding that reaches far more further than mine. So pardon me on that. So I use it
because it's actually the anti-democracy. Because if I'm empowering someone to say, hey, you want to create your own tool, go for it, just do it. He's not going to ask anybody. He's just going to do his thing. He's going to use the possibilities and the systems he has or she has to create whatever they want. And that's a very undemocratic thing.
Again, if we speak, and even then if we speak of empowerment and making it available, the kind of things you could do with those things going wrong, the implications that could arise, the kind of terror you would create or could create, let me put it that way, is and we bore Dom because he just wrote us that he needs to go. No, he wrote it differently. Family is waiting, and frankly, I need to go to the restrooms, but that's a different story. But then again, what I just wanted to...
I'm a single. I'm just gonna single.
What I just wanted to say again...
I'm just gonna talk with myself.
And I'm so... Let me put it that way. I'm astonished that I'm the law and order guy here.
I am too, which is a great new perspective.
It makes me feel like old and like a Tories voter or a Republican voter.
I'm going to call you Mr. Samashke from now on.
Please, and please talk to me in a formal way. Sir. No.
Mr. Samashke, sir.
Royal Highness Carsten.
Oh yeah, that sounds great. And that sounds just right. No, but again, since I am, and I know that is not something that explains things, but since I am a developer, since I know what things could do and what could happen, and since I know something about the complexities, and about what people are doing the wrong way there, even if they actually learned it. I am insisting on rules, regulations, a code of conduct, law, death penalty. No, perhaps not that. I insisting on those things because, frankly, if we don't have that, again, and I want to end from my perspective on the philosophical things, we might end up creating something like a godlike entity in the end, which is not controllable and which decides for us that we are the problem, which might be right, but nobody wants to hear that.
But maybe we want to be able to object.
Yeah,
Developers
perhaps. So again,
No,
that is basically. But Chris, that is basically my point there, and not about making it available. I totally second it, but just
it's a completely understandable point, but I'm the community guy. I talk about the people behind it, blah da di da. But still, actually, just one problem I see, and that we actually have at the moment, we're all living in it on this planet, is one of the trickiest parts about this is the masses. And actually, as you say, having some way, shape, and form of control over a highly diverse and a widespread and going into the billions, if we're talking about humanity and people on this planet, and finding ways of actually doing all that what we've talked about. For one, giving people enough freedom, but also having control, but also being empowering, but also having everything. Whoever watched the last 1 hour, 20 minutes knows what I'm talking about. But that's exactly what it's about, and that makes it so interesting. And I think that's what I've realized today. That's what makes this whole new combination so awesome and interesting. Because we have everything. We have His Royal Highness Carsten.
Sir Samashki.
We have awesome and knowledgeable and philosophical Dom. And then there's me. I'm just disruptive and like to fuck with
And we have Christopher Preston.
But this is great.
I'm not sure if you praised me enough. I'm not sure.
His Royal Highness Carsten.
Yeah, but I
It's
know
not
what's
bad
going to
boy.
happen.
Vanilla.
I know what is going to happen because you will sit there and say, "Kill the monarchs, kill those guys, revolution." And you know what I would say? Yeah, let me be a part of that and not the one that is killed.
No, after this webcast, just to prove a point, I'm going to download Vanilla Stack and deploy it somewhere.
Yeah, and we will not let you know where. Muhaha. Okay, guys, I have to take leave.
That's awesome. Let's end it here because Dom actually insists that he is going to leave. Chris is going to prepare for the revolution, and I need to go to the restrooms. I feel like that sums it up pretty well.
It has
I
been
need to go
great.
shopping.
Chris, Carsten, it has been great.
That way. That way.
Thank you so much for being part of this now, Dom.
I hope I get it done to have this awesome.
I hear that undertone, Mr. Branson. I hear that undertone.
I'm running off. Bye. And low code, no code, code.
Code.
Yeah, I need to go to the restroom.
Code
See you later.
Code.